Listen to me. If you give me the next 10 minutes with your full attention, your life will not stay the same. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because transformation does not require a decade. It requires a decision, and decisions can happen in a moment. Right now, you are one thought away from a different future, one choice away from a stronger identity, one act of courage away from a life that finally feels like yours. This is not motivation, this is a wake-up call. Most people believe life changes slowly over years of effort, struggle, and waiting. That belief keeps them trapped. The truth is far more confronting. Life changes in moments. Sharp, honest, uncomfortable moments when you finally see yourself clearly. 10 minutes can rewrite a lifetime because those minutes are not about time, they are about truth. A single moment of awareness can collapse years of confusion. When you stop distracting yourself and allow reality to hit you without filters, something inside you shifts. And once it shifts, you are never the same again. Think about the biggest changes you've ever experienced. They didn't happen gradually, they happened instantly. The moment you realized someone didn't value you, the moment you decided you were done settling, the moment you saw the cost of staying the same was greater than the pain of change. Those realizations didn't need months to form. They arrived fully formed like lightning. 10 minutes of radical honesty can bring that same lightning into your life if you're brave enough to stay present and not look away. Most people don't lack time. They lack courage. They stay busy because stillness forces confrontation. When everything goes quiet, the excuses fall apart. You can no longer blame your past, your circumstances, or other people. In silence, the truth stands in front of you, unarmed and undeniable. 10 minutes of that kind of silence can expose the lie you've been living for decades, the lie that you're stuck, unlucky, or powerless. And once that lie is exposed, it loses its grip on you. In those 10 minutes, you stop negotiating with reality. You stop sugarcoating your habits, your relationships, and your choices. You see clearly where you are and why you're there. Not with judgment, but responsibility. Responsibility is power. The moment you take ownership of your life, you reclaim control. You realize that while you didn't choose everything that happened to you, you are choosing what happens next. That realization alone can lift a weight you've been carrying for years. 10 minutes is enough to remember who you were before fear taught you to shrink, before disappointment convinced you to lower your standards, before comfort became more important than growth. In that short window, you reconnect with the part of you that knows you were meant for more. Not more money, more approval, or more validation, but more truth, more alignment, more integrity. That remembrance is dangerous to the old version of you because it demands change. And here is what makes those 10 minutes life-altering. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you know, you cannot unknow. Awareness locks the door behind you. You either rise to meet it or you live in constant conflict with yourself. That's why 10 minutes can rewrite a lifetime. Because the moment you face yourself without escape, your future is forced to respond. Life doesn't change because time passes. Life changes because you finally decide to wake up. Most people think they are stuck because they lack opportunity, resources, or luck. That's not the real problem. The real problem is confusion, a fog that keeps them moving but never progressing. Confusion drains energy, weakens confidence, and creates hesitation. And the longer it stays, the more normal it feels. But clarity, real clarity, doesn't require years of searching. It requires one honest moment where you stop lying to yourself. That moment can happen fast, and when it does, it feels like waking up after sleepwalking through your own life. Clarity doesn't arrive When life gets quieter on its own, it arrives when you choose to quiet the noise. Most people are drowning in stimulation, opinions, notifications, expectations, and constant comparison. That noise keeps you distracted from the one voice that matters most, your own. When you finally cut through it, even briefly, something powerful happens. You start seeing patterns instead of problems. You recognize that what you call confusion is often avoidance wearing a mask. And once you see that, confusion loses its authority over you. The reason clarity is so powerful is because it removes options. It strips away fantasy and exposes reality. When you are unclear, everything feels possible, so nothing moves forward. When you are clear, the path narrows, and that's a gift. You suddenly know what must be done and what must be released. Certain relationships no longer make sense. Certain habits no longer fit. Certain excuses no longer survive. Clarity doesn't just show you what you want, it shows you what you must let go of to get there. Many people fear clarity because it demands action. Confusion is comfortable. It gives you an excuse to stay the same without guilt. But clarity carries responsibility. Once you see the truth, you are accountable to it. You can no longer pretend you didn't know. That's why clarity can feel uncomfortable at first. It challenges the identity you've been protecting. It asks you to choose growth over familiarity. And that choice, while difficult, is where your power begins. Clarity also restores trust in yourself. When you are confused, you second-guess every decision. You hesitate, overthink, and look outward for validation. But when clarity arrives, confidence follows naturally. Not loud confidence, not ego-driven confidence, but quiet certainty. You move differently. You speak differently. You stop explaining yourself to people who are not meant to understand. Clarity gives you permission to stand firm without apology because you know why you're standing there. And here is the truth. Most people never realize clarity doesn't take time. It takes courage. The courage to stop distracting yourself. The courage to sit with uncomfortable truths. The courage to accept that some doors must close for others to open. When you choose that courage, even for a few minutes, clarity shows up fast. And once it does, it changes everything. Because a clear mind is a dangerous thing. It cannot be controlled, distracted, or convinced to live beneath its potential. Most people believe change comes from effort, repetition, and time. But the deepest change don't start with behavior, they start with identity. Long before you act differently, you decide differently about who you are. In a single moment, you stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That shift can happen instantly. Identity is not built slowly in that moment, it is chosen. And once chosen, it begins to shape every decision that follows. Think about how quickly your behavior changes when your identity is threatened or affirmed. When you see yourself as strong, you don't negotiate with weakness. When you see yourself as disciplined, excuses lose their power. When you see yourself as someone who respects themselves, you walk away from what dishonors you without drama. These shifts don't require motivation. They happen automatically because identity drives behavior. The moment you say, "This is who I am now," your standards rise to match that declaration.
The reason identity shifts are so powerful is because they collapse internal conflict. Most people live divided lives, one version of who they know they could be, and another version they settle into daily. That division creates exhaustion. But when identity becomes clear, alignment follows. Your actions stop feeling forced. You don't rely on willpower because your choices feel natural. You stop battling yourself, and that internal peace becomes a source of strength most people never experience. What keeps people stuck is not lack of ability, but loyalty to an outdated self-image. They continue acting from an identity shaped by past failures, old labels, or someone else's expectations. But your past is not your authority.
It is data, not destiny. The moment you detach from the story you've been telling about who you are, you create space for something stronger to emerge. And that detachment does not require permission. It requires decision. An identity shift also sharpens your boundaries. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing validation. You stop entertaining what no longer aligns. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because your sense of self is no longer negotiable. You understand that every yes is a vote for a version of you, and every no protects it. That awareness changes how you move through the world. You become deliberate instead of reactive, intentional instead of emotional. Here is the truth that changes everything. Once your identity shifts, going back becomes painful. You can't unsee who you've decided to be. That decision rewires how you interpret challenges, setbacks, and fear. Obstacles stop feeling personal and start feeling purposeful. You don't ask, "Can I do this?" anymore. You ask, "What would someone like me do next?" And when that question guides your life, transformation is no longer a struggle. It is inevitable. Most people believe discipline is about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. That belief is why they fail. Discipline without focus becomes punishment, and punishment never lasts. Focus, on the other hand, is power. When your attention is fully locked onto one meaningful action, effort feels lighter and results arrive faster. 10 minutes of deep focus can outperform months of scattered discipline because energy follows attention and attention determines outcomes. The real enemy of progress is not laziness, it's fragmentation. Your mind is pulled in too many directions, your goals compete with distractions, and your energy leaks everywhere. You start many things but finish very little. Focus ends that chaos. When you commit to one clear task, even briefly, your nervous system calms and your mind sharpens. You stop reacting and start directing. That shift alone can move your life forward more than endless to-do lists ever will. When focus is present, time stretches. 10 minutes becomes expansive because you are fully inside the action, not fighting resistance. You're not checking results, doubting yourself, or planning the next move. You are doing the work. This is why focused effort feels powerful. It creates flow. And flow is where growth accelerates. It's not about doing more, it's about being fully engaged in what matters most. Most people fail because they try to change everything at once. That approach overwhelms the mind and weakens commitment. Focus simplifies. It asks one ruthless question: what is the single action that would create the greatest impact right now? When you answer that honestly, everything else becomes noise. And when you act on that answer with intensity, even for 10 minutes, momentum is created. Momentum doesn't need motivation, it feeds itself. Focused action also builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a small, deliberate commitment, your self-respect grows. You begin to see yourself as reliable, capable, and in control. That internal trust is more valuable than motivation, because motivation comes and goes. Trust stays. And once you trust yourself, you stop needing external pressure to move forward. You act because it's who you are. Here is the deeper truth. Focus is a skill, not a personality trait. It can be trained, strengthened, and reclaimed. Every moment you choose presence over distraction, you reclaim your power. 10 minutes of intentional focus is not small, it is a declaration. It says your life is worth your attention, and when you treat your attention as sacred, your results begin to reflect that decision. Most people don't realize that. The pain they are running from is the same pain shaping their future. What you avoid does not disappear, it waits. It settles into your habits, your relationships, and your identity. Ignored pain doesn't stay quiet. It finds expression through patterns you don't understand and reactions you can't control. And the longer you avoid it, the more power it gains. Pain faced is temporary, pain avoided becomes a lifestyle. Avoidance feels safe in the moment. It convinces you that tomorrow will be easier, that the timing isn't right, that you need to be more prepared. But avoidance is a liar. It stretches moments into years and turns small wounds into deep scars. That conversation you refuse to have, that habit you keep excusing, that truth you keep suppressing, each one compounds quietly. And one day, you wake up exhausted not from effort, but from carrying what you never confronted. There is a cost to delay that most people never calculate. Every time you ignore what needs attention, you reinforce a pattern. Your mind learns that discomfort equals retreat. Over time, your tolerance for growth shrinks and your comfort zone becomes a cage. You don't become weaker overnight, you become smaller by repetition. The tragedy is not that pain exists, it's that you allow it to dictate your future by refusing to eat it head on. Facing pain does not mean reliving trauma or drowning in emotion. It means acknowledging reality without resistance. It means saying, "This is here, and I will no longer pretend it isn't." That simple act restores power. The moment you confront what you fear, it loses its ability to control you. Courage doesn't eliminate pain, it puts it in its rightful place. And when pain is seen clearly, it becomes information, not identity. Most breakthroughs happen the moment someone stops running. When you finally address what you've been avoiding, there is relief, often immediate. Not because the problem vanishes, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. That inner alignment creates strength. You realize you are more capable than your fear suggested. You discover that the pain you imagined was far worse than the pain you actually feel when you face the truth. Here is the final truth. Growth demands payment, and pain is often the currency. You will either pay upfront with courage or pay long-term with regret. There is no option to skip the cost. The question is only when and how. When you choose to confront pain early, you reclaim your future. When you delay, pain decides for you. And the bravest decision you can make is to stop postponing the life you know you're meant to live. Most people believe transformation is fragile, that if they don't feel inspired tomorrow, everything they decided today will fade. That belief is false. Real change becomes permanent the moment it is anchored to action. Emotion may start the fire, but action is what keeps it burning. When you move immediately on a decision, even in a small way, you lock that decision into your nervous system. Your mind begins to accept the new path as real, not hypothetical. That is how a future is secured. Action removes doubt faster than thinking ever will. The longer you wait after a realizati, the louder fear becomes. It starts negotiating, questioning, delaying, but when you act, while clarity is still fresh, doubt doesn't get a voice. Even one deliberate step signals to your mind that the decision has already been made. You stop asking yourself if you will change and start living as someone who already has. That shift is subtle, but it is powerful. What makes transformation last is standards, not feelings. Feelings change daily. Standards do not. When you decide on one non-negotiable way you will live, how you speak to yourself, what you tolerate, how you show up, you create structure around your growth. Structure is what protects progress when motivation disappears. The life you want is not built on big promises. It is built on small rules you refuse to break. Those rules become your identity in motion. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what consistency creates. You do not need dramatic action to secure a new future. You need aligned action repeated. When your actions match your truth, life accelerates. opportunities begin to respond to you differently. People treat you differently. You even think differently, not because the world changed, but because you did. Alignment creates momentum, and momentum creates inevitability. There will be moments when the old version of you tries to return. That is normal. Change threatens familiarity, and the mind resists unfamiliar territory. But when your new identity is reinforced through action, resistance weakens. Each follow-through becomes evidence. Evidence builds belief, and belief solidifies behavior. This is how temporary motivation becomes permanent character, through proof. N. OT promises. Here is what most people never hear. You are not behind, broken, or late. You are exactly where your past choices placed you, and that means your future will land wherever your next choices take it. 10 minutes of truth can open the door, but action is what carries you through it. Decide, move, and commit. Because once your actions align with who you know you are meant to be, your future no longer feels uncertain. It feels inevitable. This is your moment. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally awake. You don't need more time. You don't need permission. You don't need to become someone. You need to honor what you now know. If nothing changes after this, it won't be because you lacked power. It will be because you ignored it. And you are not here to ignore your life. You are here to claim it. So choose clarity over comfort. Choose action over excuses. Choose the future that has been waiting for your courage. 10 minutes was all it took to remember who you are. Now let the rest of your life prove it.